Last week, we covered a story on the show where OpenAI had hallucinated a new feature for a company called Soundslice, a music company. They're all about it, music education through the use of online tablatures. Of course, it's near and dear to my heart. I've got guitars on the wall. I love everything that has to do with music. And then who did I hear from? Lo and behold, Adrian Holovaty. Am I pronouncing I meant to ask this prior to recording. Is it Holovaty for your last name, Adrian?
Yeah, perfect.
Yay, great. Adrian is CEO of Soundslice and caught wind of us talking about the company.
And the other piece before we let Adrian speak is that I looked at the story and I said, it's Adrian. Hadn't talked to him in years. Adrian is well, I would say was, because he stopped doing this, a god in news and technology. He did something called Every Block years ago, which I'll let you describe, Adrian, which I pointed to constantly as the new possibility for how we do news. And then he co-created the framework Django, which is used by a lot of news organizations. And so there we are. Here we are, worlds collide.
Worlds collide. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to get you on.
You want to start by telling the Soundslice story, or
the most recent one with the weird ChatGPT thing?
Yeah.
Sure. Well,
or maybe first say what Soundslice is.
Or what Soundslice is, sure.
Yeah, love to know.
Music education, a website for music education that helps you learn tunes, helps you practice music, helps teachers teach music. It's all oriented around interactive sheet music and sort of all sorts of different use cases around what happens if sheet music can actually be interacted with by the teacher and by the student.
And you're a guitarist of longstanding.
I'm a guitarist. I'm a wannabe jazz and ragtime pianist. I created it because I was transcribing a lot of old jazz guitar recordings, and I wanted something that let me combine my transcriptions with the original audio. So it's something that is near and dear to my own heart as a musician.
When you created it, did you think it was a product or was it just for Adrian?
I thought it was a product, yeah, for sure. An argument could be made that sheet music is the world's most commonly used language, if you define it as a language. So, I always knew that it had some sort of legs underneath it. Of course, it started as it's something totally different, but we've found a way to make it sustainable.
That's amazing. Well, and I mean, this story is kind of all about starting as something different and then finding a way, the technology finds a way to, I guess, point you in a direction that maybe you hadn't considered. The story, of course, that we talked about last week involved ChatGPT kind of directing users to a feature that Soundslice didn't actually offer, which is essentially ASCII tablature. And as a guitarist, like I'm very familiar, back in the old days of learning how to play guitar, finding these, printed out ASCII tablatures online and, kind of rudimentary. But at the same time, like, it's a version of the language in and of itself. Was this ever a feature that you had even considered integrating into the site before ChatGPT was like, hey, maybe... No, actually, ChatGPT wasn't maybe about it. They were like, yeah, they offer it, even though you didn't.
The answer is no. I never once even considered implementing ASCII tab. It's because even at the point where Soundslice was created in 2012, ASCII tab was like old news.
Yeah.
There was no real reason for it anymore because there are much better ways of encoding tablature these days that give a lot more information, rhythmic information, a lot more context and subtlety. So ASCII tab is like, I saw that as like a relic of a bygone era.
Sure.
But when people came to you again and again and again, expecting you to have it, you made it.
Yeah, it's frankly ridiculous. We got this. So we have a feature of Soundslice which lets you scan images of sheet music, and we automatically figure out what the notes are, so you can hear it played back. You can edit it. And I make a point of looking at the errors on every day, every other day or so, just to see if there's anything we're missing, or also to prevent abuse. And a couple months ago, I started seeing a fair number of these ASCII tab things coming in. It's like, why are people doing this? And I didn't really think anything of it until I it was like 5 to 10 per day from different people, and that's just enough that triggered like something's up here.
There's something behind that traffic, right?
So,
it's not just
something is pushing people into this. So I went to ChatGPT and was pretty much instantly able to trigger it. I basically asked it like generate some tablature and tell me how to play it back. And it said, yeah, here's some tablature. And if you'd like to play it back, go to soundslice.com, create a free account, go to the ASCII tab section and paste this in. It's like, what? No, that doesn't exist.
How did you know to go to OpenAI to kind of start this detective work? Were there any clues or tales?
Well, yeah, the
there?
screenshots, some of them had ChatGPT in like the header. So they were clearly screenshots of ChatGPT.
I see. So
in all sorts of languages,
nugget.
yeah. Like it really hit home how deeply used that thing is. Because this is a niche thing. Like guitar tabs. Like if we're getting that amount of interest for just that, I mean, it got me thinking, like, whoa, a lot of people are using ChatGPT for solving their problems.
So how long did it take to then create the function?
Well, we talked about it as a team and decided, sure, it's not going to take that long, so let's do it. I did it basically in a few hours. One evening, I put together the basic thing, and then I was on a transatlantic flight from Amsterdam to the U.S., so I did the rest of it over there. So, and then our designer, Edward, made it look and work good, so I would say like 5 hours total. It's a bit minimal project.
Have you seen an increase in the traffic to that function since?
No, and because, well, sorry, I thought you were asking if we had an increase in signups, and there I was going to answer no, because people were already signing up because they were being misled by ChatGPT.
Oh, I see. So they were actually like signing up for, like in this case, like a paid account, expecting that on the other side of that they would find a free account. Okay.
ChatGPT was telling them it was a free feature, which it is now a free feature.
Okay.
It's not like, I don't expect to make any money from people wanting to hear ASCII tab. It's like, sure, let that be free. These are probably not people with huge budgets anyway, and we like to do a lot of free features for musicians because they're not the most. Being a musician is not the most lucrative career path in the world. So
no, definitely not these days. Well, that is really interesting because I mean, yes, it's a niche thing, but like I can remember when I was much younger and actually using these tabs, and I absolutely loved it. I'm sure there are ways. Like I haven't really looked into kind of the more modern, kind of accessible ways of guitar tabs or just tablature in general that might be the alternative to ASCII tabs. But there's something very universal about the ability of an ASCII tab to represent what someone might want to play. And so having that feature integrated, yes, it's niche, but it's also something that I'm sure a lot of beginners and people, really wanting to learn and not spend a lot of money in the process might actually be looking for. So that's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, and another point about that is that it's sort of lowest common denominator because it can be communicated in text, and crucially, it's something that ChatGPT can generate because it deals only in text.
Exactly.
So there are other ways, of course, of encoding music. There's something called music XML, but that's very verbose. Technically, it's text, but and technically ChatGPT knows how to generate it, although it'll be probably 80% wrong. But ASCII tab is nice and compact, and it's text only. So I think there's an interesting kind of related story, which is the fact that ChatGPT is text-based sort of has this invisible hand pushing things toward things that are easily encodable as simple text.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you both. As a typesetting geek, I wrote a book about Gutenberg, and I'm writing one now about the linotype. Setting music in type was a challenge, a considerable challenge for many years. And it was solved, and obviously it was set, but it was not an easy task in type. In fact, one of the first examples of an attempt at photo composition was taking little notes and putting them down and then taking a picture of that to then in turn print. So it's been a problem for years. And I would imagine that ASCII tabs existed because trying to communicate music with normal notation required something that people just didn't have before computers.
And guitarists are not very good music notation readers. Partially because
exactly.
they're amateurs, mostly speaking, and also because the same note can be played often on multiple parts of the guitar, so it's ambiguous. So it's easy just to just have the notation tell you where to put your finger. It's just very like literal and direct.
Yeah, there's something very obvious with, I mean, once you know what you're looking at, and I'm, for video viewers, I'm kind of showing it right now, but once you know that each of these represents a string on your guitar head, and each of these numbers represents, the fret that you are putting that finger onto for that particular string, it becomes really easy to look at this and very quickly, belt that out. Maybe not belt it out if you're a beginner, but compared to having to, figure out how you interpret all of the different symbols of a standard tablature and everything. It's just a very baseline entry level way to get in and get some progress. And I love what you said as far as kind of ChatGPT and just like LLM technology in general. They're working so deeply on a deep level with text based everything. And this is such a unique but easy concept to replicate from that paradigm. And yeah, one thing that you mentioned in the Ars Technica piece was that you felt like your hand was forced. And I'm curious to kind of hear you expand on that a little bit. This is a feature that didn't exist before. The AI imagines it. Did using this based on ChatGPT's kind of like, a creation of it, let's say, did that feel kind of empowering? Did it feel unsettling? Like, what was that like, collaborating unintentionally and unwantingly with ChatGPT from afar?
The word I would use is galling.
Galling. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's lying to our potential customers about capabilities that we purportedly have that we do not have. So we have three options. One is do nothing, which means people are getting the wrong impression of our stuff. They're signing up. They're probably getting pissed off at us because who are they going to trust? Some site they'd never heard of, or ChatGPT, which is all over the news, And
they're using it daily and all that.
And they probably have some level of trust established with it. Yeah. So option number two would be to put some kind of banner on the site. Hey, by the way, if you're coming via ChatGPT and you happen to think that we have this one feature, that does not actually exist.
We do not.
That just seems so disproportional to, all our other customers. It's like if you go to like a restaurant and you see some sign by the register that's refers to some super obscure thing, you're like, oh, why is that there? Like, it shouldn't be at that public. And then the third option was just to do it. So I see it as a defensive play because it was helping people. It was defending us from misinformation by ChatGPT.
So, different question entirely, if I may.
Sure.
You, as a musician and a technologist and AI, are you using any of the AI tools around music? Are you positive toward them? Think that they're ruining the field? Think there are possibilities? What's your relationship with AI and music now?
Well, I think it's instructive to be more precise about the term AI.
Yep.
So we use AI, quote unquote. We use machine learning for our scanning system. So we have our custom built. It's not using any company stuff. It's our own models for taking an image of sheet music and figuring out what it is, extracting it. And the fact that it uses machine learning compared to classical like image processing techniques makes it so much more accurate. Because this type of software, it's called optical music recognition. It's kind of like OCR, but for music. It's existed for decades, but it's always been kind of bad. Like you talk to musicians about it, they're like, oh yeah, I know it exists, but it really sucks. But the fact that we're using machine learning for doing the detection makes it capable of detecting with a lot of subtlety. It's really good. So I'm very happy with that. And yeah, very happy
what
with
about
that.
the tools that
generative AI?
Yes, people are using to generate music.
Yeah.
For generating music, I am ethically and philosophically opposed to it. Okay. I also think it's really stupid because the whole point of music is that it expresses emotions that can't be expressed in language. It's it's a higher level language or lower level, depending on your perspective. And to have a machine generate that, it like totally defeats the point. There are commercial capitalist reasons to do it. Like if you are you're making a TV commercial and you don't want to pay human musicians to have your 30-second soundtrack have AI generate it. I'm also morally opposed to that because, like musicians have a hard life. Why are you screwing them over even more by refusing to pay musicians for like an afternoon session to record your stupid 30-minute advertisement? So I am pretty. Maybe I've gone overboard in my criticism, but I'm pretty anti it. The one thing I will say, there are good uses. There's something called stem separation, which is basically if you give the model a recording of a mixed mastered audio, it can separate the drums from the bass, from the vocals, from everything else, and that's really great for learning. Frankly, fantastic. I've learned stuff that literally wasn't possible to hear if you just listen to the original recording. But if you extract just, the guitar part, it's like, oh, so that's what they were doing. So that's good. Basically, I guess my personal ethics and philosophy around it could be described as if it helps you extract information, detect information, learn, then I'm all for it. But if it creates, then at least in the world of music, I think it's either a way of screwing musicians or it's totally beside the point.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I'm as a musician, I'm constantly searching for, what are the places in which this technology can enable me to do things that I didn't know I could do before, or to explore the unknown, without kind of going overboard and just handing the keys to something else. And so, using some of these systems as like an inspiration engine, like, oh, I didn't think to put, a line like that over the top of this. I'm going to go back and play around with that instead, almost like someone sitting next to me in the studio to say, hey, did you think about doing this? Oh, that's a really great idea. And I guess the fully generative stuff, like that doesn't appeal to me. But, I also recognize that there are people that don't have the time or even the interest to spend months upon years getting really good at putting in the time and the reps to play a guitar or whatever, but they still want to create something or want to be involved in the process of creating something. So I can kind of understand the other side of it too. So yeah, I find myself torn with it as a musician.
Yeah, the debate I've had is whether it extends literacy in varied means of expression, or if I want to, I'm not good at drawing. I can't draw worth a damn. And if I want to express myself, is it better that I could go to it and be the boss and tell it to express something I want to express, or is that worse? Since college choir, I haven't been singing. I don't read music well. So there's areas where I'm not capable today of doing something. I'm a writer, but other people are very scared of writing. And the question to me, I think, is that if someone is fully in charge of it and isn't led along by the nose, it's up to them how to use the tool. The piece that I'm most interested in, Adrian, which you mentioned, is educational. I think if you can use it to pull apart things and show... When my son learned programming when he was in third grade, I thought, well, you have to do flowcharts. You have to, well, no, he started tearing apart programs to see how to break it. The classic kid in the toaster. So I can see that as an educational tool being very valuable, but there's a fine line then. Where does the education end and the creation begin?
So there is one example that I'm aware of using AI music creation tools for legitimately great art, and that's this obscure guy on YouTube called Daelims, Daelims, who takes Beach Boys, who basically reconstructs non-existent Beach Boys and Brian Wilson tunes. He'll actually, so there are like Brian Wilson demos from the 60s that were never fully recorded by the full band, but he'll actually create what it would have sounded like in 1966 if the the Beach Boys had done this tune. And he uses things like the stem separation that I mentioned. He uses this other AI thing where you can make your voice sound like another person. Yeah, this is he has a bunch of channels because they've.
I was gonna say there were a few that I found, but this
taken down by YouTube because it's kind of a gray area thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's so good, and it's kind of like music fan fiction. That's the way I think about it.
Yeah,
it's a great way to put it.
What would it have been like? He has some Beatles stuff. Like what would have happened if Paul McCartney sang this if he were part of the Beach Boys? Blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. That I love. But it's non-trivial. Like it takes a lot of musical knowledge and artistic decision making on his part. So I think it's a really good example, probably the only one I know of, where a musician is using these things to make something that's not just some AI slop. It's thought. It's a well thought art, but it happens to be using these generative AI things.
Yeah. And that might not even be enough to satisfy, other music lovers, to see something like this. Like, this is something that you can understand and can kind of, give a pass on. I'm sure there are a lot of other music lovers who would see this and still see it in the same view of like, nah, it's AI recreating something that didn't exist in the name of someone who I idolize and appreciate, and I just can't stand for any of it. It's all of such a gray area right now. I think music labels also are working to kind of button down their own rights and their own systems for their artists so that they can do something like this. Like when I see this, I think record labels, I believe, are kind of potentially moving in the direction of offering services like this so people can eventually create songs for their art or that represent their artists where those artists get paid, but kind of maybe, create songs that are that artist that didn't exist before, but kind of done with their interests in mind. I could totally see that happening in the future.
Yeah, that gets to some very, very interesting philosophical questions. Like, is it enough to have Brian Wilson singing something? Does that mean that that's his music? No, I would argue that no, it's the musical decisions that he made, from the subtle ways that he would sing to the chord changes that he put in to the instrumentation, orchestration, arrangement of the whole thing. You can't encapsulate that whole, there's a lot of different pieces to the puzzle. So just having an artist's likeness in audio form is kind of like, that's okay. Like for some segment of people who don't really care about music that deeply, I'm sure it would be interesting, but there's a lot more to it.
100%. Yeah. Fascinating stuff.
This is great. Thank you, Adrian.
Yeah, thank you. I love this topic. Like, I love AI, like talking about AI, and I love talking about music and AI. So this is like, my heaven. To kind of round things out, if other companies find themselves in a similar situation as you found yourself, like, how would you advise those companies to approach it? Like, what would be your advice to someone if they said, oh my God, this AI is putting out this information on our service and it's not actually true?
Yeah, well, I think it becomes a question of how much effort it would take to actually implement the feature. Because if it's minimal, which was the case for us, then I would say just go ahead and do it. If it's non-trivial, then, I wish there was some sort of recourse that we could have with OpenAI. Like with Google, you can ask them to remove a link from their search results, and they'll comply with that.
Right.
If you can prove that it's your website. So I think that there is a need for that. Now, it's probably much logistically harder to do that than to just remove a link. But I mean, I've seen how much those OpenAI engineers get paid. I'm sure they can figure it out.
Truth. Yeah, so true. Right on. Well, thank you for hopping on and talking a little bit about your story and at least giving me the chance to nerd out on AI and music. Appreciate your perspective, Adrian, and everything that you're doing with Soundslice. Everybody who's interested in what we're talking about here can go to soundslice.com and check out all of Adrian and his team's hard work. Adrian, thank you for being with us today.
Good to see you again, Adrian.
A lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.